Surface preparation. Matisse colours will adhere to almost any surface. However, it is important to remember that the paint will only be as good as the foundation that you lay for it. If you're putting down a clear seal or a gesso and you find that the surface is rejecting or the gesso or the sealer is beading up, then you've probably got a surface that is either dirty or is not compatible with the paints. To rectify this, you may be able to clean the surface with diluted vinegar, methylated spirits, or mineral terps, or sanding lightly. Then use a coat of diluted polymer gloss varnish or clear sealer to give you a bond coat between the surface and the paint. As far as gessos goes, in the Matisse range, there are 3 different levels of tooth. There's the very fine or smoother tooth background colours in a large range of colours. There's the gessos, the low viscosity gesso, the black gesso, and the thicker gesso that have an average level of tooth. And then, of course, there's the transparent gesso, which can be added to any of the other gessos to give more tooth. The transparent gesso can be used by itself and has a lot of tooth. Matisse colours can be applied directly to paper. And one way to prepare the surface for painting is by sticking the paint down with tape. So I'm just taping the paper down. This will help the paper to stop from buckling and also give a nice clean edge or a border around the paper. Now I could just work straight onto this, or I could put a clear sealer down. Especially for thinner papers, a clear sealer or diluted polymer gloss varnish is a good idea on paper. Obviously we can use tacks or staples or any sort of thing to hold the paper down. What I'm going to do now is mix a background colour and the transparent gesso to give a surface to paint, or at least to draw on with charcoal and pastels. The transparent gesso gives a really good tooth. So I'm mixing transparent gesso and background colour together. And I'll apply this as a surface onto the paint, or onto the paper at least, to then go over with pastels and charcoal. I'm using a good quality painter's masking tape to hold the paper down so that it will release and won't actually stick to the paper. Okay, so you can apply the mixture of the background and the transparent gesso. Indeed, we could have just used the straight transparent gesso to give a neutral surface. I've applied this previously, the same mixture, the burgundy background and the transparent gesso on this canvas, and of course it can be done on canvas as well. So the surface that we achieve here has got real tooth and texture to it, and allows the pastel or charcoal to grip really well onto the canvas. So it's some real tooth there, which allows us to the pastels to adhere nicely. The pastel primer can be mixed with any water-based acrylic and, of course, pretty well any colour. So your choices for background colour are unlimited. When painting on tiles or glass or other non-porous surfaces, firstly make sure the substrate is totally clean and free of dust and of course grease and oils. This can be done using methylated spirits, mineral terps, or indeed vinegar just watered down and washed over the surface. Leave the surface to dry and then apply polymer gloss varnish diluted with water or clear sealer as a bond coat between the paint and the non-porous surface. Medium density fiberboard is a very popular and cheap surface. You can paint directly onto the MDF or indeed put down a gesso first, or you may want to put a sealer on, but a gesso should be enough. All the gessos, including the background colours, can be used on MDF. The Matisse gesso works really well on the routed edges of MDF to fill in the little furry bits and the little holes. The next surface we're going to look at is plywood. Plywood's a terrific surface to paint on. You'll probably want to use the MM10, the thicker gesso, on here to fill any small holes or the grain that's in the plywood. Plywood and wood are a similar beast and can be treated much the same way. So we can use clear sealer over the top of them. For very young wood or very green wood, if you're concerned that you might have tannins or resin coming out of those woods, and the same with plywood, although normally plywood's treated, you'd put clear sealer on first. Clear sealer will give you a complete seal to any of the paint or gesso that you put over the top. With any of the wood surfaces, you need to make sure they're completely free of all dust or grease.